I just finished reading Rules for Fake Girlfriends by Reagan Revord, who is an actor that I have never heard of before this book. They are on Young Sheldon, and they have like 2 million Instagram followers, so some people know who they are. I did not. I'm not up to date on popular TV, but I am up to date in the space of sapphic books, and that is how I found out about this. I saw some of the marketing for this when it came out. It was a thing because they're a famous actor that I've never heard of. What I did not realize when I saw that marketing is that Reagan Revord is 18 years old. Like today, like when I'm recording this. And this book didn't come out today. This book came out when they were 17 years old. And they wrote it when they were 15. This person was born in 2008. We got kids born in 2008 writing books now. I feel old. I feel unaccomplished. They were writing this while in school and while being a famous actor. And this was a pretty good book. So, like, child prodigy behavior. So that was very impressive. However, that did not really color my reading of this because I didn't realize that when I started reading it. I was just like, yeah, this is a good book. I knew they were an actor, but I just assumed they were an adult actor. But I saw that they were a teenager when they wrote this. When I was looking things up, I was about halfway through the book at that point, and I was like, oh shit. Impressive. And that does color my reading a bit, just because it, like, you can't not. Like, this is a child. This is a child's debut novel, which is kind of crazy. And it's pretty good. I think the first half is better than the second. I think it starts pretty strong, and then, kind of, fumbles a little bit. You could argue there's some pacing issues, like, in the middle, towards the end, and then the romance aspect of this falls kind of flat, even though it has a strong start. But, to be honest, a pretty decent little YA novel, coming-of-age novel. I also read this on audiobook, and the author is the one who read the audiobook, and they're an actor, so they do voices for all the characters. They do, like, accents, British accents, Welsh accents. I can't tell you if those are good accents, but, like, probably, because they're a professional actor. And they were 17 years old when they were publishing their novel and doing the audiobook for it. That was pretty crazy. And they did the teenage voice well because they were literally a teenager. So the audiobook works out. I did look up some other reviews. Some people were saying that they saw, like, grammatical errors in this. I didn't read the text, so I can't attest to that. There was one point in the audiobook where literally a whole paragraph gets repeated, I'm pretty sure, unless my audiobook, like, glitched or something. But I saw someone else say that they saw, like, a line that was repeated, and in the audiobook, it was a whole ass paragraph, but that only happened once. So I can't really attest to the grammatical consistency and accuracy in the physical book. But really that's an editing error more than anything. Because, like an editor should go through that and fix, like, typos and grammatical mistakes and stuff like that. So if there are any of that, I don't know. And, like, I'm gonna blame the editor there, because that's definitely the editor's job. There's no typos in the audiobook, so... And if you're a fan of the actor, you'd probably want the audiobook anyway, because they narrate it, and they do a good job. So, like, I had a good time. I can't tell you about the typos. Or maybe those were in art copies. I'm not sure. But I did not witness any literary crimes in this. I was not privy to that experience. And also, there weren't, like, major plot holes or anything. I didn't see anyone complaining about, like, that. Or, like, giant formatting errors that, like, ruined the reading experience or anything like that. It was just, like, typos. Which is poor editing. The baby should have been edited better. That is a problem if that's in there. But I'll get into the plot. So this book is inspired by rom-coms. Our main character and her mother both really are into rom-coms. They read a lot of them, they watch a lot of them. Every chapter in this is titled with, like, a different rom-com trope. Our main character is a writer, she's in school, she's writing, like, a rom-com during the course of the novel. But this book itself is not a rom-com, which is not exactly what I was expecting. But it works. So this has a bit more of a somber tone than a rom-com. It's not a rom-com because it's not a comedy. It's also not totally focused on romance. There's a lot more going on here. Especially with Avery, our main character, and her mother, who has recently passed. So there's a lot here about grief and trauma and moving on with your life, but it's not one of those, like, sad girl teen novels. I've read a few sad girl boring novels that are just boring and the main character being sad. No, the main character is living her life. She's just graduated high school. She's moved countries. She's attending school where her mother went to school and her father, I think. She's carrying on with her life, but there is in the background, like, the shadow of her mother and the grief that overcomes her. And the book is, like, literally driven by the memory of her mother. But it's not overly sad. is not a boring sad girl book. It's sort of slower pace, which some people might not like, but I didn't mind it too much. And I'm not a person who likes really slow things either, so if it didn't bother me, it really wouldn't bother you probably. But it's not like the most action-packed thing in the world. But it's not sad and boring. That's good. I will say content warnings for death of a family member. There's a side character who struggles with self-harm. There's mentions of eating disorders, other chronic illnesses with a couple of characters. There's a good actual like array of disabilities and like trans, non-binary characters and queer characters. So there's some good representation here for that. But we approach some heavier topics if you're sensitive to that, but it's not super heavy itself, the reading of the book. But it just deals with those topics. So Avery's mother died of cancer a couple months ago, and her plan is to go to Columbia and become a doctor. But after her mom dies, she receives a mysterious postcard from her mother that basically instructs her, guides her, urges her to delay Columbia and go to school at her mother's alma mater in Brighton, England. Avery's father is really struggling with the death of his wife, struggles with OCD, has a strained relationship with Avery, and is even more estranged because of this conflict of her not going to the right school. But she decides that she is going to go to Brighton. She's going to go live in England, have an adventure. Her mother was this very fun, creative, energized, kind of on-the-fly, artsy photographer person. And her mother also loved scavenger hunts. And this is a scavenger hunt. She knows that her mother has planned the scavenger hunt, and not only did she plan it before she died, she planned it before Avery was born. This is a scavenger hunt like 20 to 25 years in the making. That she like literally put in place like all of the clues like 20 years ago before Avery was born, because she had the idea to bring Avery here for her class trip, like her 20-year class reunion. So this was planned way in advance. Which sounds crazy. That sounds completely ridiculous that she's able to go here. And the way she finds a lot of these clues for the scavenger hunt is incredibly convenient. But it actually works. Because Avery, as the narrator, is speaking to us, the reader, through this lens of rom-coms, there's this formulaic, predestined feel to all of this. All of this is fate. We see that in these movies. It's incredibly formulaic. All of these things happen. They happen in just the exact right order. They happen at just the right time. You know exactly how a relationship is going to play out before you even see it on screen. There's this sense of fate, of predestination, that has already been decided, that they are going through the motions, that this is just the way life is. You get swept up in the current and everything happens for a reason and everything works out as it should. And that's why this works. It is kind of crazy that she ends up in just the right shop, that someone her mother knows just recognizes her and knows her name because her mother used to talk about how she was going to name her daughter that name. Like there's this overwhelming sense of fate here. And so I'd say the main plot of this book, a good portion of the plot of this book, is her on the scavenger hunt in Brighton, starting a new school, trying to live her life, but also trying to trace down these clues of her mother. There is a point in the middle where that stops being such a focus. There are 9 clues in total, and we get a good handful of them, like right off the bat, right in succession. And then she hits a snag, which is a floppy disk, a broken floppy disk, which is obviously outdated and has been broken over the 20 years since it's been planted and been waiting for Avery to find it. So this stalls the investigation for like quite a while. And then there's a big section in the middle that is the romance. So there is a romance here. It starts out really good. Avery is on the bus, like to her school, like the first day she shows up in England, and this girl sits next to her, this cute girl, and is like, hey, I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend. My ex-girlfriend is over there. I'm trying to like make her jealous. Let's talk. Like, pretend to be my girlfriend. So they fake date for like 20 minutes. And of course Avery likes this. She sort of likes this role. She likes the formulaic rom-com nature of it. She's sort of telling her friends that this happened to her. It's like a big joke. But then she gets to the school and she sees Charlie. Charlie's the cute girl from the bus. And so they get to talking. They sort of become friends. She meets all of Charlie's friends, who obviously think that they're a couple, and she just kind of has to go along with this fake dating thing. And she likes it, and she does, because she kind of likes Charlie, and she also just likes having these new friends, meeting these new people. They're all nice. Even the ex-girlfriend isn't like a bitchy ex-girlfriend type. She's a genuinely nice person. And she's sort of using this as inspiration for her novel that she's writing in her novel writing class. Her mother wanted her to be artistic and not a doctor. And so she's sort of following her passions while she's here at Brighton, and becoming a writer. And of course, over time, she develops real feelings for Charlie. And she has reason to suspect that Charlie likes her back. You know, like, sometimes they hold hands to save face, but then they keep holding hands even when no one's around. Charlie sends her all these songs. They bond over music because they actually do like the same bands. There's a lot of Oasis talk in this. They bring up Wonderwall unironically, which I've maybe never seen done before. And the plan is to eventually fake date for like a month, and then they're gonna have this big public breakup right before like this concert festival that they're all going to. And then at that point, Charlie will get with Layla and they'll bond at the concert, and Layla will have to comfort her because she just got broken up with, you know. But then the day of, Charlie like changes the plan and like keeps changing the plan and keeps being really nice and doing all these affectionate things for Avery. And eventually the time comes for the breakup moment, and it doesn't happen. Charlie changes the script, and then they're just together, which was my main problem with the romance here. This is kind of spoiler territory, to be honest. The moment this goes from fake dating to real dating, incredibly unceremonious. I genuinely did not realize that they were real dating now. They plan to break up, but then Charlie is like, nah, we can bend the rules. We're not gonna do that. And I thought they were just delaying it because, you know, neither of them really wanted to admit that they didn't actually want this to end. You know, she's just saying, the moment's not right. You know, we'll do something else. Because Avery is also, like, concerned about a public breakup. Because then she's gonna lose all of her new friends that she's made, Charlie's friends. Because they're not gonna side with her, they're gonna side with Charlie. And she's gonna look like a douchebag for causing a scene. So I thought, like, okay, like, they're putting this off because they're not ready for it to end yet. But no, apparently they were just dating. And there's a few scenes where, like, they are going on more dates, and I'm like, but are we dating like 4 other people? Like, is this a group outing and you're pretend dating, or like are we on dates? There's kind of a time skip. Again, some of the pacing I said was weird. That month of their relationship feels like a lot longer. It feels like more than 3 weeks. There's a point where they say that they've been together for 3 weeks, they've known each other for 3 weeks, and I'm like, it's only been 3 weeks? That's crazy. It felt like longer. And then there's just like a big time jump when they get together. And it's like, yeah, we've been together for a few weeks now. And I'm like, oh, months have gone by? Just like that? Okay. And then there's another moment, like, at the end, where it's, like, the end of the school year. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, time's gone that fast already? Damn, time flies. So there's, like, some weird sense of time going on, a little bit. It didn't really bother me for the most part. I will say, like, at the halfway mark, it kind of feels like a different book. Once that breakup scene doesn't happen, it feels like a different book. Because we get a time skip, we get... It feels like it shifts focus. Because the first half of the book is really about them and their fake dating relationship, and they're always, like, going on quests together to find these clues that Avery's mom left behind. And then in the middle, we get some more stuff with Avery's friends, and I guess, like, she's just, like, casually dating her girlfriend. There's no, like, big moment where it's, like, there's a kiss scene, but it's not, like, oh my god, she kissed me and it changed my world and now this is real and everything's all-consuming and totally different. It's really unceremonious. That's the word for it. I wanted that shift to have a much bigger impact, because, again, I did not realize they were real dating for a little while. And it even says, like, Charlie says, yeah, you can call me your girlfriend, but I thought, like, in the fake scenario. Because they'd only been together for a month, like, fake together for a month, so I'm like, oh, maybe they just progressed their relationship. Maybe they weren't putting a label on it in the first couple of weeks in their fake relationship, and now the fake relationship has progressed. It's a fake label. I don't know. And then the romance all fizzled out there, because they really do have chemistry, because they really bond. And unexpectedly, like, Charlie did not expect to like this girl. She was trying to win back her ex. And so it's like a really natural kind of chemistry where they can't help to fall for each other. But then in the second half, there's some miscommunication stuff. I won't spoil that. But they just, like, don't talk. And then they just kind of drift apart, you know. Excuses get made. They can't go together on dates. They can't, you know, see each other over, like, winter break. They kind of just, like, stop talking so much. Like, there was, like, no chemistry really between them as soon as they get together, which is crazy. There should have been like a honeymoon period where we just get a couple of chapters that are all about how insanely in love they are and how everything's incredible now that they're real dating. Because again, I did not realize that they were real dating for a little while, and that was a real shame because I liked this romance and I wanted it to have more of an impact than it did. And then we go back to the stuff with the mom. We solve the floppy disk problem, but like way later, like chapters and chapters and chapters later. And then I was like, oh yeah, we're on a scavenger hunt. We haven't done anything with that for a while. And I do like the scavenger hunt. That's fun. Like, I like the clues. And I liked that it was like so convenient. Every single time she found a clue, it was like the craziest, most unrealistic shit ever. But like in a very intentional way. It's predestined. You know it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen. I just thought that really fit with like the themes and like the presence of genre in this, even though this book is not a rom-com. That just really worked for me, and I'm impressed that that got pulled off because in most books that would not work. But the way it's framed specifically and how much this book talks about fate, it just works, and I was surprised about that. Very pleasantly surprised. But I like that element of fate. I like the thematics of this young woman finding herself and like following her heart and what she wants to do, even though I said fate. And so like fate as a concept sort of does take away agency from the characters, but it doesn't feel like that. It's just like if you think about fate like philosophically, it takes away agency, but it doesn't feel like that in the book. Like you really see that this girl is like, she's 18 years old, she's living on her own for the first time, she has a roommate, but she's, you know, away from her family for the first time, she's just grieving the loss of her mother, she's maybe possibly changing her career path, you know, thinking about things like that, and just like going with her heart, and you know, and like thinking of all the life lessons her mother has taught her, and all of these clues, and like the way her mother has impacted her life, and the way her mother has impacted the people around her, like her father. Her mom was actually friends with Charlie's mom. They were in the same class. So it's like, it's just all serendipitous. And she's just taking that in, and she's taking in her friends and being like, this is my life, and I sort of appreciate it. And I can take things as they come and value all the little things and cherish all the little moments and all the little memories. And I think it's a good little coming of age novel. I think it could have improved pacing, and I think the romance definitely could have been improved in the back half. It was really good setup, and then I just did not care about them at all. And then the reason for their like third act breakup, miscommunication stuff's like, okay, I didn't care. And then by the end of the book, I just didn't really care about their relationship at all, and I was more invested in Avery's storyline, like with her mother and with her father and like some of her friends, and you know, just her life in general. And I liked it. And I don't know that this was like my favorite book and that it'll stick with me forever or anything like that, but it was pretty good. And I was very, very impressed to learn that a 15-year-old wrote this. 15 to 17. They would have spent a couple years working on it, but still, like, they were a child. This was a child's book, and they did a good job. I'm impressed, and I would like to read more from them because they probably will write more books, and I feel like they'll only get better. So, like, looking forward to that. They're doing all this at 18 years old. You know, they got a promising career ahead of them in the arts. Whatever arts they want, apparently. All of them. So yeah, I would give this probably like a 3.75. Above average. The back half kind of killed it. Like, when I first started this book, I was like, this might be a little 5-star romance novel. And then it fell off toward the end. But it was still a really strong start. And then when you take into account the fact that the author was a child when they wrote it, that's pretty crazy. So, good shit. Pretty good shit. Pretty solid. I'd recommend it if you want a coming-of-age young adult novel that's not totally about romance, not totally vapid or shallow, is a bit more somber or heavy or emotional or reflective or sort of nostalgic in a way. Pretty good.